podcast where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live from the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks out there, you want to raise $100 million plus? We're going to tell you a company that did this today. And before we do that, let's introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the World Token Market. Vicky, how are you doing today?
Again, Ron, I'm fabulous. This is a perfect day in Vegas, and we have a very interesting guest on our podcast. He's been on our podcast before, but so many things have happened since he's been on, and today we're just going to find out all about it. Looking forward to it. So let's get started.
Excellent. Okay, so let's bring on William Santana Lee. He is the CEO of Knightscope. William, how you doing today?
Good. I go by Bill, and greetings from Silicon Valley again. Glad to be on, and thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.
Excellent.
Always.
You know, Bill, we see a lot of crowdfunding projects, and they're out there all the time, and all these great ideas. And one of the reasons why I like yours a lot is that we actually saw your deal as a demo when you guys came to Las Vegas, and we were really impressed on the status of what you've got going so far from where you were. It's been amazing. You've done an incredible job.
Thank you. It's been really easy, kind of straight line. Startups, just happen overnight, and everyone should do them. It's piece of cake.
It's that
and
easy.
Exactly. We're laughing, Bill, because we know that that's just not a true fact.
It's all relative, right? It's all relative.
Yeah, it is. And Bill, before we get into it, again, in case somebody didn't listen to the last podcast you did with us, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you got to be where you are, and maybe a little bit of background on Knightscope in particular?
Yeah, sure. So by way of introduction, I'm a former automotive executive. I spent a good amount of time at Ford Motor Company, and which is an awesome training ground for what I'm doing today. I was born in New York City. Someone hit my town on 9/11. I'm still pretty ticked off about it, so I've dedicated the rest of my life to better secure our country. As an automotive exec, I think self-driving, autonomous technology is really going to have a dramatic impact on the world. I'm just not necessarily in agreement on the path to commercialize the technology. Everyone's trying to do the most difficult problem first at the highest speeds possible, and that's not really how a sane way to get a new technology out in the field. So that's why we've been doing the crawl, walk, run approach is, hey, can we get these machines to run on their own, fully autonomous, meaning no one's remote controlling them 24/7. And can we do that, at speeds at, let's say, less than 3 miles an hour? And now that we've, proven that we can do that across the country, things get really interesting. And so we're based here in Silicon Valley. We build autonomous security robots. So these are a very unique combination of self-driving autonomous technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, and electric vehicles. So some of the most important technologies all at that intersection where Knightscope sits. And they're intended to help law enforcement officers and security professionals do their jobs much, much more effectively. And they provide a physical deterrence, and they gather a massive amount of data. And now that we're, whole contracts from Hawaii through Rhode Island, we've learned a lot now that we have these out in the field. A lot of folks, think it's science fiction or, hey, when are you going to launch these things, or nice prototype, and they don't realize we've done millions and millions of dollars worth of business and have clients all across the country.
Oh, that,
right.
And before we start, let me just congratulate you, Bill, on this is you're celebrating your ninth year anniversary with Knightscope, and you've accomplished quite a bit in 9 short years, although I'm sure you shed a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And that you've actually launched your IPO, and you're listed on NASDAQ with a KSCP as your letters. So tell us about it.
Well, I think, if you add that all up, the 95% of startups fail, right? I
True.
live here in Silicon Valley. We have literally 20,000 plus startups at any given time, and a significant majority never make it. So the probability of, someone starting a company like we did, getting it financed, growing it, and then January of this year we listed the company on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol KSCP, is, from what I understand, somewhere in the lottery category. Like the statistical probability of you winning the lottery is kind of that path. But, we couldn't have done it without the thousands and thousands of supporters that helped fuel the growth, plus our team, our very, very dedicated group of patriots, technologists, law enforcement, ex-military folks that have, basically built the company, one brick at a time, and or say one robot at a time. But we got it here, and that was a very, very long first chapter of the company just to get things off the ground. But now we're excited to work on the second chapter now that we're publicly traded.
Well, it's a testament to the dedication of your team and how much they believe in what you're doing. Otherwise, that couldn't have done that. That's great. That's great. So, what made you decide to take it to the next level and launch your IPO? What was the determining factor for that?
A few things. There are a lot of pros to being publicly traded, and there are a lot of cons. But we had raised nearly or well over, I think, $120 million just before the listing, and we're backed by 35,000 investors. And one behind the scenes bit is the manner in which we raised the capital. We were already reporting to the SEC every 6 months as if we're publicly traded. Or said differently, we had all the negative aspects of being publicly traded without any of the benefits, all the annual audits, filings, and everything else, which, in retrospect was a good stepping stone for us. And then, a lot of clients, would rather do business with a transparent, publicly traded, well-financed company because they know startups, mostly don't make it. So that gives an additional confidence with both the private sector as well as the federal government. And then lastly was just to be able to access the wider capital markets. And I think we demonstrated what that can look like as we announced earlier this week a $100 million facility with our friends over at B. Riley to help us continue to grow the company. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and founders think that the world of startup financing, be it venture capital or Regulation A pluses or CFs or Ds or what have you, is the end all be all, and they don't realize that it is a tiny percentage of the worldwide capital markets, right?
Right.
Yes.
It's a unique one, and it allows you a little flexibility and creativity, but you're absolutely right. Even though it seems a simple thing, nothing is simple. And I'm impressed by the fact that you reported to the SEC and you kind of did a pre-launch without launching, so that when you actually did, I would assume that it was a little bit easier and a little bit smoother.
Oh, I got really lucky. Like our CFO is awesome. She brought with her a very, very seasoned accounting and finance team. I think collectively before this last transaction, they had done maybe, I think, 6 IPOs and 22 secondaries. And so having a very complicated, small private company with a kind of crazy capital structure, and having a really seasoned team be able to, take the bull by its horns and really wrestle that into something that we could get ready to list was they were instrumental in getting it done. But it goes to one of the most important, few important things as I like to say, life is short, do what you love and make a big impact. And in order to do that, you have to surround yourself with, awesome, dedicated people that are willing to do slightly irrational things to get something to happen.
Exactly, because no matter what anybody thinks, no person, whatever they're doing, no one person can do everything or know everything. It's kind of a collective. You surround yourself with an awesome team, and everybody brings something to the table, and before you know it, together, you've created something special like Knightscope. That's an absolute.
Yeah, and you have to, for the founders or entrepreneurs listening, you got to kind of fire yourself along the way. Like I always kid around with my team. Is like I'm the, I was the HR intern, I'm the social media intern, I'm the accounting intern, and at some point in time you need to bring in the professionals that can do what you're doing very poorly, and actually fill that slot. And that's what I've been doing along the way. And
well,
little by little.
It always helps to know how to do everybody's job. Pretty soon you're going to be out there building the actual robot, Lee.
Yeah, you'll be in the warehouse.
Well, actually, you kid around. That actually happened. In the early days, we didn't have enough people to. We got an order for something, and we just didn't have enough people. So literally, and it was a really bad. This is, I don't know, it was half a decade ago. We got an order for the first set of or the second set of machines, and we didn't have enough staff to build it. It was like, all right, everybody put your pencils down and grab a screwdriver. We're going to build machines for 2 weeks. And we did it because we had to. You should never do that. But we've had to do that a couple of times.
And that's it. That's the crux. You have to do what needs to be done, no matter what it is, or no matter whose job it was. It's your job because it needs to be done.
Exactly. Yeah. And no one else cares. But everyone's like, well, this is too hard, and what have you.
Excuses.
And the auditors don't care, the regulators don't care, your clients don't care, the shareholders don't care. You just need to do it.
That's right.
It's funny how you mentioned that this was like half a decade ago. It sounds so long, but when you think about it, that's only 5 years, and that's just right around the corner these days. 5 years go so fast. It's crazy,
Right.
Yeah, it's actually surreal.
Yeah, and then
exactly.
To piggyback what you said, I went to a conference a couple of years ago, and some guy gave me his business card, and his title was "Generally in Charge of a Lot of Things." So I think that probably describes what you were doing too.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
As Ron said, Bill, a couple weeks ago, Knightscope does a road show, and they happened to be in Vegas, and we went to the road show where you bring a pod and you have your various models of your different robots, and you get to go see them and touch them and finally see how they actually work. And when we went to it, without knowing what to expect, we were absolutely floored by how incredible these machines are. They're I don't even know how to describe it except that they were great. They were just so cool. I wanted to take one home with me because they were so neat. And it's, you can see it, you can look on, you can read this, you can read that news release, or you can see how they look online or whatever, but actually physically being there and being able to touch them, it's like brings it all to life and really appreciate it. It was incredible. That was great. We really enjoyed that, Bill. That was fabulous. Anybody who has the opportunity, if the road show comes to your city, you have to make time and go see them.
It's fun. I'm glad to hear that because, it was, less than a year ago, I thought up this crazy idea. Even my team's looking at me cross-eyed. So let me get this straight, Bill. You want to have a robot aquarium, like a huge glass pod with robots in it, and we're just gonna, truck it around the country, and then you're going to you're going to have a Zoom call with the salespeople on the side, and then there's humans going to be coming in. Like, you're out of your mind. Like, I pitched it to my team, and they're like, okay. And now that we're able to actually get it done, the excitement, including our CFO, our head of sales, everybody's super excited because it's exactly what you just said. One, it brings the kid out of everyone. Like, a robot will, bring out all the fun aspect. But also it's really hard. Like, you can watch all the videos you want about Knightscope. You can read all what the papers and everything else, as you said. But a lot of clients, I need to see this thing in real life. And it makes for a very, very compelling event. I think we've done maybe 24 or, nearing 36 pod landings all across the country. And we just announced the tour for spring throughout the Midwest. And so, be sure to go to knightscope.com/roadshow. You can see the schedule there, and everyone's invited. It's
it was
our
great.
prospective clients, the media, politicians, community leaders, investors, kids can come and see, robots in real life.
Yeah, they were great.
And Bill, what did your colleagues say 9 years ago when you said, you know what, I'm going to raise $100 million for this idea? Did they look at you crazy too?
Well, actually, my team were all like, yes, we need to go do this. It was the rest of the world, like, I basically got told three things in a lot of cases, not in a very polite manner. One, hey, Bill, you're out of your mind. This will never work. Your mission is to make the U.S. the safest country in the world. Like, you're delusional. Two, it's hardware and software. It's too complicated. You should pick one. And that to me is so, I don't know, naive or kind of not understanding how the world works. And that was said to me by a really prominent venture capital firm that should know better. And third is physical security is not an investment thesis. You need to go away. Investment theses look like, whatever at the time, big data or, analytics or whatever. Physical security is not a theme. This is, the government will take care of this. That's their first role of government is to protect their citizens. Like, why would you do a startup to go do something like that? And, I don't like the answer no. Like, we made up our mind that we're going to go do something. So what we ended up doing was just forcing what we wanted to happen. And I'll put it in context for the founders and entrepreneurs listening. We closed nearly, over 35,000 investors before the public listing. If you hit those numbers, imagine how many people said no along the way, right? And you got to be able to just plow through it.
Yep. Well, and when so many people are telling you, oh, Bill, this is a crazy idea, you need to go find something else to do. Well, for me, that just tells me this is a fabulous idea, and nobody knows how to do it. So I'm gonna take that challenge, and I'm gonna show them. Yeah, this is what needs to happen, and I'm gonna make it happen. And you'll see. 9 years from now, you'll see. Yep.
And take all that negativity and turn it into fuel. And the best part was this will never work. This will never work. And then I remember vividly. I think I was in New York City in between meetings, and my co-founder calls me. He says, Bill, you're not going to believe what just happened. He's like, I said, what happened? What happened? Like, I'm thinking something awful happened. Like, we just helped a law enforcement agency issue an arrest warrant for a sexual predator.
Wow.
And that I was speechless. I got chills and I got teary-eyed. I'm like, we did what? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I thought this wasn't supposed to work.
Right.
And so now if you go to knightscope.com and click on the crime page, you've got a very long list of all these positive things that the machines have done for society and at a very small scale, and we're just getting started. But, no one can ever tell me again, like, yeah, that's not going to work. Well, sorry, but, we believe in data, and here's the data.
And that's right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Bill, tell us what kind of companies or what kind of industry that your robots would have the biggest impact on, or who should purchase them? Who should use them?
I'm going to give you two different answers. I'll give you the short-term answer and then kind of the long-term. The
Okay.
short-term answer, most of our clients today are corporate campuses, commercial real estate, kind of retail/malls, manufacturing or logistics facility, hospitals, casinos, law enforcement agencies. And so basically anywhere you might see a security guard or officer patrolling outdoors or indoors is typically an opportunity for Knightscope. I think that's kind of the first answer. The second answer is more long-term. If we're serious about reducing crime and terrorism, which has a $2 trillion negative economic impact on the U.S. every single year, like criminals and terrorists don't care that, oh, great, you operate in schools or casinos or healthcare. They're basically everywhere. So in theory, Knightscope needs to be everywhere. We're going to have extra small versions of this to extra large to be able to be in every nook and cranny, both indoors and outdoors across the country. So if everything goes well, which, we're heading all in the right direction, this should be no different than, how you would secure a school. You'd be having the same conversation about how do I secure that government facility or that, just that neighborhood or that particular park. It could be a high-value target like a power utility, substation or the like. So, there's an opportunity long-term, as I like to say for a lot of folks are like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. Well, hey, listen, we've already proved that it works. And by the way, the market for crime is never going to collapse. It's not like all 7 billion people on the planet are going to wake up tomorrow and all start behaving, right? So I think we're off to a very good start.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So let's talk about the robots themselves a little bit more. They're manufactured in the USA?
They're not only manufactured in the USA, but they are built by us, our teammates here in Silicon Valley. So we, to be clear, we design everything. We engineer it, the software, the firmware, the electrical, the hardware, mechanical, et cetera. We physically build the machines. We deploy them, and then we continuously monitor and keep them nice and healthy and service and support them. So everything's pretty much done by us in-house, by American technology for Americans.
Right. And when these robots are deployed, they have to have a battery life, right? They're run by battery. How long does that last? Or how do you recharge them?
So think of it not like your mobile phone or electric car. Like you don't want to, run all day long and then have to charge all night. Like that's not going to work. Our clients want 24/7 uptime. So the machines will patrol autonomously, maybe let's say for 2 or 3 hours. And then on their own, they'll go charge when they need to for 20 or 30 minutes, kind of take a coffee break. But they're still working while they're charging. So we typically have that docking station placed where a security guard would normally be stationed. And that allows for really good coverage. And again, running still 24/7.
Yeah, I guess the analogy would be for a human being, if you'd have to be working while you're sleeping at the same time, right? That's why the robots are so much better.
Oh, actually, you raise a really good point. Let's do some quick math for your listeners. So in the U.S., there's about 1 million security guards. There are about 1 million law enforcement professionals. So that's 2 million humans trying to secure 300 million Americans across 50 states. Like that's a kind of ridiculous ratio, and I'll make it worse. Is a human, you can't triple shift, right? If you want to run 24/7 for a particular location, you actually need 4 people, right? So you take those 2 million that I just spoke of, and you have to divide by 4. So any given time, there's only 500,000 humans trying to secure the 328 million Americans across 50 states. That doesn't work, and I can prove it. Just go to the FBI crime clock. So that enables or gives us the opportunity for long term, if we can put 1 million of these machines in network to help the 1 million officers and the 1 million guards, then we have a chance to put a really big dent in the problem.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But, another thing that's interesting, too, is these machines, these robots, have audio capability, they have video, they have surveillance, 360, right? You can look all around you. But this data has to go somewhere, right? So are there human beings monitoring this 24/7, or how does that work on the monitoring side of this?
Yeah, so, on the TV screen or movie screen, you often see like, okay, there's 40 monitors and there's 2 security guards watching the monitors. That is a ridiculous use of human capability or incapability. After 8 minutes, you're basically tuned out. That's not what humans are good at. So what the machines run autonomously. They don't have to be quote unquote monitored by the client. If and when we see something that might be of interest or we're told by the client, the robot will send that alert when needed. But there's not someone sitting there, staring through the robot, 24/7, because that's not really helpful and not what humans want. I guess no different than your home security system, right? If you're out and about and you're not sitting there on the train or in the car staring at your front door all day long. When there's something that happens, you get an alert and then you go look. That's a similar concept.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty interesting as well. And now, just getting back to the listing itself now, when you guys decided that you wanted to take this company public, to the time frame when you made that decision to the time you actually got the ticker, how long was that? How long did that take?
Oof. I spent too much time with lawyers. So the way you asked the question, I would have to say it would be years because we were thinking about it a long time. We've reserved the ticker symbol very early in the process. But from the time we engaged the particular advisor till we actually listed, it was about, I want to say 6 months-ish. Or so.
Okay.
Okay. And the other thing that's really important is there's numerous ways to do a public listing, and we needed to spend a good amount of time with different advisors and, some of our existing investors to kind of really think through, because we don't know of any other company in the world that's, done a public listing with 35,000 investors. That is not normal. So, there's ways to do a public listing. You can do a direct listing, you can do a SPAC, you can do, OTC and then an uplist. You can, do a normal S1 IPO. You can do a Reg A plus kind of IPO. I mean, there's 10 million, not 10 million, but there's, dozens of ways to do a public listing, and we need to do the pros and cons very carefully to make sure that we pick the right path that would minimize the risk for the company and our shareholders, right? So we're pretty happy with what we ended up doing. And then remember, we listed the company during a very volatile time in the marketplace, and we were able to get the deal done, which was of utmost importance.
Yeah, that makes it even a better story. Actually, now I'm sure everybody knows that the whole process is not cheap to do. You have to have some good money, in your coffers. But I'm also guessing that you guys estimated how much that would cost, the whole process. Did that estimate come in low or high, or did you gotta nail it on target? To me, anything over zero is too much money. We should, the amount of money we spent with the auditors, with our attorneys, with the bankers, with, investor relations, absolutely way too much. They shouldn't need to cost this amount of money. I know why we had to do certain things. And
and we did it, as efficiently and careful as possible. But, I would rather have had, frankly, all of that money put back into the product and into growing the company than having it related to issuance costs. But, unfortunately, it's a, kind of cost of doing business is similar in a weird way. It's similar to cybersecurity. Like it's an abyss, black hole of expenditures that you have to do it. It's not optional.
And that's only half the story too, because you spend a ton of money going public, and then once you're there, it costs a lot of money to stay public too, right? Isn't it ridiculous amount that you're paying for monthly listing and all the other stuff you have to deal with?
Well, yes and no. So yes, it is bloody expensive, and there's way too many, advisors, legal audit fees and stuff that get really expensive. So that's one answer. But the second answer is, as I mentioned earlier, we were already spending that pretty penny for a portion of that. So it wasn't kind of new news for us. And having a lot more sophisticated finance, accounting, legal team than one would normally have for a company of our size does, cost a significant amount of capital. But, we needed to get it done, and we did.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked that is because we talk with a lot of issuers and CEOs that actually believe that they can do this in no time and on a shoestring. And it's really amazing that, and these are really bright people too. And you got to make it clear to them that, it's. I mean, you may be able to get there at some point, but it's not like it's going to happen overnight. And you're proof that where you started from this, and you have a vision, you worked hard. 9 years later, you raise all this money. I mean, that's a good success story. But some people think it happens overnight. It just really boggles my mind.
I think Absolutely. That's the problem, and I'll also share with you, one thing that happened to us, which was, when I told you there's 10 different ways to do a public listing. And so I wanted to get genuine input from financial advisors and bankers and, folks that have been through the process to give me the pros and cons. And I'll be frank with you, what happened was if you ask the big monster bank what to do, the answer is whatever big monster transaction that they're good at. If you ask a tiny boutique investment banking firm what to do, the answer is whatever the good tiny investment bank is good at, right? And so you never get the genuine, real advice that you need. It's basically we're going to sell you whatever we're good at, so you hire us. And so we ended up having to, basically say thank you, but no thank you. Either that's a dumb idea or that's not going to work or what have you. So we kind of, unfortunately or fortunately, I would say, went down our own different path.
Yeah, and that's so important. It's so important to gather as much information as you can before you create your strategy or make your plan, because you have that information and you know what to not use and what to use and what you didn't know that somebody brought to the table. Without more information, you can't make a successful strategy.
Yep. And then, everyone's going to second guess you. And a lot of folks, not just the entrepreneurs or founders you spoke of who think they can, or CEOs that can do a listing quickly, you've got a whole investor pool that don't understand the process, think that, you just press go or press IPO and it just happens, right? What's taking so long? What are you doing? That sort of stuff. And they don't understand how complicated this can be. And in some cases, you can't say anything because there's regulatory requirements and that sort of stuff that you need to abide by. And so it's not a process for the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
That's a true fact.
Bill, last question before we close this out. When a client decides that he wants to use these robots, what's the process there? Is it a tryout period, or do they get deployed that day, or how long of a contract do they sign? How does that work?
Yeah. So we have clients all across the country, and we've done this now so many times. We're pretty good at it. We first, maybe I'll just walk you through the process real quick. Someone goes to Knightscope.com, clicks the demo button, signs up for a free demo with one of our, seasoned professional executives that know the technology and know the security space. And, we'll start asking questions like, what is the problem you have? Can we actually be helpful, as opposed to, yeah, we'll do whatever you want. And when we're done with that needs assessment, we try to do a virtual demo of, the capabilities. And if it goes well, hopefully, then we'll meet them on the Robot Roadshow, where the prospective client can see the machines in person. Then we'll typically sign a year-long contract running 24/7 in some cases. Some clients, want, part-time, just, 12 hours, which we can also do for them. And then sign the contract, and then there's a multi-week, and sometimes with COVID and supply chain issues, it's multi-month, but we try to avoid that process to set up the build, make sure the configuration's right, understand what the kind of post orders are for the robot, patrol schedules, alert levels, training, and all that sort of thing. So typically it takes a couple of weeks for us to be, maybe 60 days to put 60 to 90 days to put the client in the queue, and then we're probably on site for a week or two, depending on how complex the location might be, and then we're off to the races. So 24/7, it's machine as a service. It's a subscription service, so we don't actually sell the robots. It's a service that you're subscribing to. It's very cost effective, $3 to $9 an hour, running 24/7, and we take care of everything.
And they can go to the website. We'll link to everything that we talked about before. But is that the best way to get in touch with you? If people want more information, go to the website and request that demo.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the absolute best way, and it literally goes to the sales executives to find the right person that would match what the prospective client might be looking at. So someone who specializes in casinos, will have him or her speak to our friend Paul. If it's on healthcare, we'll have someone else, and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the best way, is just go to Knightscope.com/demo.
Great. I'd like to get one of those robots to go to my annoying neighbor's house and wake them up at 3 a.m. every morning. That would be a good use, I think. That'd be fun.
They called us earlier. They requested a demo and had the same request to keep an eye on you.
Exactly. But Vicki, I'll tell you, isn't this amazing stuff? It's an amazing technology, and you get to see it for yourself, and the success from going from nothing to raising $100 million, being listed. Boy, I'll tell you, what do you think of this?
Oh, my God, Ron. I thought this product was fabulous, but when we actually got to go see it and touch it and that, this has got to be one of the most impressive products that I've ever seen. And the thing that I really like about is that Bill didn't let anybody tell him or convince him you can't do this, because this is something that people, I don't understand why you'd want to do this. And he, instead of listening, he took it as a challenge. And he took that challenge and he turned it around, and he created this impressive machine that is fabulous, a successful company, and on top of that, he changed the world and impacted it for the better. That's fabulous. Kudos and congratulations to you, Bill, because what you've done is incredible and very impressive.
No, it's been a team, and it's actually in some cases sometimes a movement of supporters that are sick and tired of, hey, listen, I don't think the country that we ended up building is what the founders wanted, right? Do you think that Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin and George Washington were sitting around going, yeah, it's okay for, someone going to school, going to work, or going to a movie theater would have a risk of being shot or killed? Like, that's not okay. And
I don't think they saw that.
this is normal. This is not normal. This is not acceptable, and we're going to have a different way. All we've done thus far. The country's 200 years old. We're in a 46th president. No one's actually fixed this problem. It is a massive problem, and we can't keep sitting here arguing over the problem. Like, we need to actually work on solutions. And now that we've built one from scratch, it's time to get community leaders, people of faith, the city council, mayor, chief, sheriff, and everyone in between to understand that in order to have a prosperous society and a peaceful one, we're going to have to invest in some new technologies to give the officers and guards an ability to do their jobs effectively. No different than the massive amount of capabilities we give to our soldiers in a theater of war, right? It's just a massive injustice and disparity. And I'm hoping that Knightscope can, with all our supporters that have helped us along the way, can, kind of make that difference.
I think you're well on the road.
That's the way to end the podcast. Absolutely. All right. Well, Bill, thanks a lot for being a guest on the show today, as usual. And Vicki, thanks for co-hosting this episode. And folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that homepage, you scroll down, you'll see all our syndication sources. Pick the one you like best, subscribe, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show like Bill was today, fill out that guest tab. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email at info@mappableusa.com, or just leave a message on whatever you're listening to this right now. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for listening. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.